Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Inside Out Life podcast. It's Barry Samuel here once again with you, and very thrilled for our very special episode today, talking about goal setting, performance, achieving your passions. These have been the themes that we've discussed in the previous episodes, and I feel like today, with our very special guest, we're reaching a pinnacle, and I feel like he'll agree with his own personal recent accomplishments. So we're going to dive into the journey to achieving your goals, and what it takes to have a community surrounding and supporting you. As a strategic and important ecosystem to build into your psychological, emotional, and physical well-being. And oh, wait for it, maybe like a key snack food for you to enjoy as just a special extra touch. There's a little hint of um, uh, talking to Evan Dunfee and his journey. So uh, it's a real pleasure to welcome to the podcast to talk some mastery over goal setting and being on the journey to achieving your passions in life. Evan's experienced that and continues to experience that, so it's a real honor to have you on with us, Evan. So welcome. What's breakfast looking like today?
Oh, great to be here, Barry. Thank you. And yeah, before I hopped on here, I kind of rated the last remnants of I haven't gone grocery shopping in a while, so I had two Eggo waffles left. So that was breakfast.
That's awesome. And so you're wearing your logo there of your sponsor. And we're going to talk about that as part of your journey and getting a boost from the corporate world on your journey to being a two-time Olympian. Sounds pretty cool to say. How are you feeling after the recent games in Tokyo?
Well, right now I'm feeling quite sore. I had my first walk back after a month off yesterday, and it's amazing how much fitness you can lose in a month of doing nothing except eating and drinking. But overall, mentally, I'm feeling great. Just still kind of wrapped up in the whole experience, and haven't gone back to rewatch the 50K race yet. So still not quite sure how it all unfolded, how it happened, but just still living in that like contentment that it did happen, and and that that goal I set for myself to win an Olympic medal 21 years ago has come true. So just really just still reveling in that and enjoying it.
Yeah, reveling. It's a beautiful word, and I read one of your quotes, and I can't remember. As I was telling you before we came on, I was revisiting your Wikipedia page, which is pretty cool, and where I was looking at some of your inspiration for influencing school kids through your talks, and also what you had said. Actually, it came. Now I'm remembering, was on your Instagram account where you said that for as you mentioned, 21 years you've been thinking about it, you've been dreaming about it, you've been practicing for it, and now you're living it.
Yeah, I mean that was so my elementary school, Kingswood, back in the day. That was our motto. Our school motto was "Dream it, think it, live it." And it's just kind of cool to look back on thinking, that's where this dream started. Was at elementary school with a popsicle stick run at lunch, and and finding out that I was a pretty good endurance runner, and went from there to trying race walking, and really at an early age just having that desire to go to the Olympics, not knowing what they were, just growing up in a household where they were talked about as a thing that was achievable. My goals from the get-go were so normalized. Whether it was my parents being like, "Oh yeah, you want to go to the Olympics? Okay, what do you like? Sure, how can we help?" To the first time we ever sat down with my coach and did goal setting, the goals we came up with were win Olympic gold medals and set world records. And that was just, okay, that's what we're going to do. Let's go and start trying to do it. So that think it phase, it was just, there was always support. There was never any question around, were these goals achievable? Were they too big? Were they too, ambitious? It was just, no, that's what you want to do. All right, how can we support you? How can we get you closer to that? And now to be in that sort of live it phase of having that Olympic medal, having stood on the podium, and having that moment that can never be taken away from me. It's certainly not what I needed to define success for myself. It wasn't something that, like, my happiness didn't hinge on it. But certainly to get that sort of check mark and and tick that box off, it's a great feeling.
And I think a lot of us are vicariously living our dreams through you, Evan. And so thank you for your perseverance. And because it's as we know, it's not easy. End sentence there. And to persist, it's something for, as you say, for 20 something years. It takes a long time to be an overnight success, I think, is where we can kind of borrow that phrase and turn it on its head a little bit, right? And so just to kind of back up and tie it in to what you referenced, and having a great coach and having a supportive community, and I know a little bit about your parents, and that they also have an athletic mindset, if I'm correct, in the way that they grew up. So I think would you say that you're pretty blessed and privileged in terms of maintaining your health, putting aside your little hamstring issue there, of course, to be able to get to this point and to have that green light from the get-go?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, privilege is probably the best word to describe it as well. I not only privileged to have, had, my dad coached in Munich in '72, and so he's been to the Olympics. He knows what it's about, and it was just always a thing that was sort of talked about and normalized. It was the Olympics, yeah, okay. Like, it was never put up on a pedestal. So, a little luck and privilege there, but also the privilege to have been able to do whatever it was that I wanted to do. My parents were incredibly lucky to be in the position that I could try all these different sports and find what I liked, and had the support network, financially, most importantly, but also the ability to drive me to practices and do all that stuff that is, not a given for so many families. So, can't go without acknowledging that immense privilege that I came from and had, and the luck and gratitude I have towards that. But then also realizing that that's not everyone's situation, and trying to use my platform now to break down some of those barriers that that face other kids who just aren't as lucky as I was, and make sure that they still have the same opportunities, because I'm who I am because of sport. Sports turned me into the person I am, and had I not had those opportunities, had I not had that privilege, who knows what I'd be doing now. So I think so much of where I came from, and where I got to has instilled in me this recognition that I need to now work hard to make sure everyone else, everyone else has that same opportunity that I had. So that's a really cool part of this journey that didn't always exist. It wasn't. I was pretty selfish for a long time in this. I think sports and setting these goals of, I want to be an Olympic champion. For many, many years, it was, I want to be an Olympic champion. I want to do this for me. And it was, it was a very narrow scope of like the impact that would have. And it was all for me. And it wasn't until 5 or 6 years ago that I kind of had this light bulb go off and moment of clarity, I guess, to be like, well, Christ, like, this isn't just me. This is, I have an impact beyond this selfish journey and this selfish pursuit. And I have sort of a responsibility to use the platform that I have because of this to do something else, to give back. So that's probably been like the coolest thing in the last 6 years, is having that platform to be able to do that and still stay on track with that performance goal. Still, didn't detract from that at all. It just kind of helped make it more fulfilling.
Yeah, and so that journey again to being the overnight success, really, of a couple of decades, many twists and turns, ups and downs. So that sound like there was like a really kind of poignant shift, psychologically, emotionally, where I guess you have this realization that you're talking about now. That, I mean, you as a high performance individual, as somebody who's an achiever, so we can kind of make this metaphor outside of the sports landscape as well, where if you're someone that's really driven towards a goal, it does require a little bit of being insular and kind of looking at yourself and kind of blocking the outside world to a great extent, that you have that tunnel vision. So having said that, it's a beautiful thing that you can make this a holistic perspective and have that realization, that, you know what, I'm standing on the shoulders of others. I'm here, and I've been afforded this opportunity to really have the space to focus on myself because of my own fire and drive. But I wouldn't be here if it weren't for all this happening around me, protecting me. So is there anyone that you want to kind of identify that's really helped you in making that shift? Because we know that in 2016 in Rio, you had a great performance, had its own drama. And then fast forward to Tokyo, and the last kilometer of Tokyo, again, reading from what you said, you dug deep, and all of a sudden there was like an angelic kind of mystical force or something that came over you, and it was like, I'm not just doing this for me. And all of a sudden you went from a non-medal position to becoming basically an Olympic champ.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. The biggest, so the lesson that I try to leave kids when I do my school talks is like, one, set really big goals. So, my goals are pretty big. I want to be an Olympic champion. I want to break world records. It doesn't really get much higher than that in the realm that I exist in. And but at the same time, making sure that we don't measure success by that black and white, did I achieve that goal or not? And so when I look back on, sort of where this transition started and where this moment of clarity kind of came, like the 2012 Olympics in London were kind of the target. I was, I had made every national team I wanted to make up until that point. Everything was on track. And 2011, I set personal bests every single year that since I started race walking when I was 10 years old, 12 years of every year improving. So I was really close in 2011. So finally I figured 2012, I'll improve again and I'll make the team. And it didn't go that way. I didn't make the team. And I was sulking and wasn't going to go to London. I wasn't going to go and watch. I was just going to sit in my room and binge watch, canoe kayak and archery and shooting and all these sports I had never watched before. And decided on a whim at the last second to go, hopped on a flight, booked a ticket, hopped on a flight the next morning, was in London. And then a day later was on the side of the race walking course watching my teammate Iñaki Gomez compete and all the other athletes that were out there, achieving my dream from the other side of the fence. That was kind of that big moment of like, ooh, I need to change something. I need to make sure I'm not on this side of the fence, come Rio in 4 years. So that was sort of really the start of that transition to my mindset. I started working with an awesome sports psych, Kirsten Barnes, who helped kind of flush a lot of these things out, a lot of this selfishness that I was feeling, a lot of the hinging my success on those black and white. Did I achieve the goal? Did I not achieve the goal? On a daily basis, like going out and having a good workout meant I was invincible. Having a bad workout meant I was never going to amount to anything. And it was, it was that granular really, which is exhausting. Mentally, that's very exhausting to ride those ups and downs every single day. So it was really through my work with Kirsten that over a couple of years, we kind of flushed out this more holistic journey approach to, here are my goals. Anything I do to get closer to those goals is success. I'm not going to be defined by the overall outcome. and that really made me a better athlete, made me a lot happier, made me, all these sorts of, made me the person who could, in Rio, after finishing fourth and the chance of appealing a decision to get the bronze medal, an athlete who 5 years earlier absolutely would have done that, because the bronze medal would have been success for me. That would have, coming fourth would have been failure, and coming third would have been success. So I absolutely would have protested and tried to get Haruki Arai of Japan disqualified. But this new mindset, this new process that said, well, no, he doesn't deserve to be disqualified, first and foremost. That's the most important bit. But also, I'm happy with my race. I left everything out there and gave it my all, and that's success to me now. And that really that's carried me through, that same mindset's carried me through the last 5 years. And as you said, in Tokyo, that moment, last kilometer, 22 seconds back of third place, and just digging deep, thinking about all the friends and family who were walking every step with me back home and who've been a part of this journey, and how I just sort of, whether or not I caught third, it was just, I owe it to myself to leave everything I have on this race course right now. And if that means I leave my hamstring behind on the race course, then so be it. But I was lucky that my body allowed me to find that next gear and sort of unload, I guess, that last kilometer and come through and get the medal. And just, again, that whole process coming full circle of no longer needing the medal to define my success, but still desperately wanting it, desperately chasing after it, desperately wanting that tangible thing that I can now take to schools. And when I talk to kids, there's a thing I can pass around and give to the kids and say, hey, I set my goal on this 21 years ago when I was your age, and I worked really hard every day for it. And look, now I have this thing that exists, that's real. It's so awesome to have that now. So I think that was a long-winded answer, but
it's
hopefully
all
there's
good.
something in there.
It's all really exciting stuff that again, like I used the word vicarious earlier, like so many of us, I think, are looking to you as having been and continuing to be really an inspiration for really kind of becoming the best version of ourselves. And that kind of segues a little bit into picking up on the mindset a little bit, as you're talking about your sports psychologist and your journey in terms of going from being the kind of selfish version of Evan Dunfee, or at least in your mind, to having this realization that it's something greater than that in terms of a global or community or national perspective, the country Canada you're representing, which on the other hand is almost like a tremendous burden and a tremendous pressure, which really comes down to like, how are you going to manage that pressure and how are you going to handle that? And I think with that change in realization, I'm guessing that you were probably allowing yourself to relax a little bit. And we know, are there days off for training and working out to getting ready for the dream of a lifetime and being in an Olympics? Well, on the surface, the answer is no, but strategically, you want to give yourself a mental, physical break and taper and load and unload and doing those all kinds of technical terms in the training jargon, but to give your body the break and to regenerate, to heal and to peak at just the right time. So, I think that it's really, we're looking at, as a high performer, be it as an Olympian such as yourself, or a high achiever, somebody that's driven for their passions, is to try to get into that state of flow where you're really alert and focused with that laser type focus, but at the same time, you're not too tight that you feel like you're going to choke up. So what's that all been like for you in finding your flow?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've learned how to do in the last couple of years really is, even on days that I'm still training, building in days off, building in mental days off, where it's, I might have a walk to do. I might have to go and do 10K, but mentally I'm checked out. It's a day off mentally. I'm not having to record everything. I'm not having to, write a big paragraph about how I felt or what went well and what went poorly. It's just, today is just go and do the walk and then forget about it. Being able to find, I was someone who incessantly had to log every feeling I had during a workout for years and years and years. And then over the last few years, I've gotten way more content with just being like, okay, well, like, yeah, this workout was good or this workout was bad, and tomorrow will be good or bad, and we'll just deal with that tomorrow. And like not having to, having specific built-in periods where I didn't have to worry about that because it was mentally just too much energy, and that wasn't the point at that point. And then obviously other times where that is the point, and you do need to check in with exactly how you feel and what's going well and what's going poorly, and watching video and seeing what's working well with your technique, and being really mentally turned on at other points. But just kind of accepting that even within the like physical ebbs and flows, there can be mental ebbs and flows as well, where they might line up where you have a full day off, and it's physically and mentally it's a day off, and then there's some days that you have to be turned on physically and mentally, and there's some days that you can be tuned out mentally but there physically, and vice versa. So I think that was a big part in what's helped me, especially this last year and a half, where there was nothing, I wasn't working towards any race really. From March 2020, when the Olympics got postponed, there was nothing on the calendar until this theoretical maybe Olympics in August 2021. And I think had I still been in that incessant need to be mentally checked in for everything I did, I would have burnt myself out. But the opposite happened. I learned that I was an athlete who actually doesn't need to be working towards competition. I used to think I was like I could only train if there was a competition on the schedule that I was, training towards. And this last year and a half, I found out that, well, no, I can actually just train because training is kind of fun. And I like to see myself get fitter, and I don't need that competition circled on the calendar to work towards. And I think a large part of that it was certainly just, understanding that there are breaks and there are those, those peaks and valleys that are okay to embrace, even if they're not planned. I've had some days where the plan was to be physically and mentally turned on, and I got out there and 2K in, realized that that's not going to happen, and just like allowed myself to adjust and turn off and change on the fly. So,
I mean, it trying to find silver linings in a pandemic. That's one phrase that we've become accustomed to. Trying to plan a major international event and put it off for a year, and then wonder still if it's going to happen, as was the case with Tokyo up until like maybe 2-3 weeks before, I don't know, a month before, we still didn't know. So much uncertainty. But amid all that, like that kind of a global environment for ourselves, which has been obviously very scary to live in for all of us, and to survive in, quite frankly. It's also kind of allowed us to kind of, I guess, kind of be a little bit insular too, and look at how grateful we ought to be for life itself, and kind of have that philosophical outlook, and kind of grow and mature in ways that probably were accelerated. Like, I think in some of the conversations we've been having in this podcast has been kind of referencing, like, what I grew up like, and I realize what my real values are and what's important to me, because I've had so much time to reflect. And Tokyo was supposed to happen in 2020, as we know, and was delayed by a year. So I think it's kind of been really interesting for us to kind of develop more loving relationships, to be closer to family, maybe not physically because of social distancing and quarantining and all of that. But I think at the end of the day, there have been some real silver linings, and some of us have really, I don't know, I don't want to overused grown up, but and it doesn't matter what age we are. I mean, life is fragile, and we were living it, and hopefully we'll continue to live it, and not in the sense of a pandemic, but get through it. And it's just been really beyond words.
Oh, for sure. I think for me, the thing that I reflect back on the most in this last 20 months is how lucky I am. Seeing how many people, like when we sort of first went into lockdowns, and the amount of people that found joy in just being able to get outside and go for a walk. And kind of, so many people were saying like, man, this is amazing. This makes me feel so much better. Like, just this simple thing of going for a walk is amazing. And me being like, oh yeah, that's my life. Like, that's what I do. Like, how, it really drove home for me, like how lucky I am to get to do what I do. And just, yeah, I think that sort of, gratefulness is sort of really the driver that's been hammered, or the nail has been hammered home for me these last 20 months.
Yeah, and grateful. Like I just want to acknowledge, first remind people you're listening to the Inside Out Life podcast, and our very special guest today, coming to us from the beautiful neighborhood of Richmond, British Columbia, in his home, where he might have, some playful things on his shelf behind him there, which we're enjoying, by the way, for those of us that are watching this on video. Yeah, gratitude. Like I have family in Richmond. I've been there. It's a beautiful place. And talk about gratitude. It's and this was the thing I was thinking about, Evan, is like coming in and we've been talking about, mental training. Well, let's talk about mental health for a moment. And what better sport to pick up during a pandemic than walking?
Nicely.
For so many reasons.
Yeah, I mean, and that's been the coolest thing. It's just this last, like, one, because of the pandemic, I've been home training. I haven't been on training camps. I haven't gone to our normal altitude camp. So my entire preparation for the Olympics was here at home in Richmond, and so one, that meant that I got to be in my community as the Olympics kind of ramped up and people got excited for it, which normally I'd be off in Europe at altitude training in St. Moritz or something like that. And so that was really cool. But then so many more people are outside walking, enjoying their time. And it's, I've certainly seen just a huge shift in the amount of people enjoying exercise. I mean, Richmond's such a great place for it too. Like, we're perfectly suited for getting people out the door and being active. So, but one of the most awesome things of my preparation for Tokyo was I couldn't go on a single training walk without having half a dozen to a dozen people cheering me on from their bikes, going past me, walking by saying good luck in Tokyo, horns honking, people cheering go, Evan, go. That sense of community was so cool. And to just, that's one, another thing I'm grateful and lucky for is that my sport is outside of my community. I go outside every day and train on the streets of my city. So many other athletes, we have so many great inspiring athletes who, by happenstance of the sport they do, is they're in a warehouse somewhere, or they're in a pool, or they're kind of locked away. Whereas I have the privilege of being able to interact at that really granular level with my city and my community. And it gives me great perspective, but also just really helps on those days that you're feeling like crap, and then you go by, you go, some little kid on a bike goes past you and wishes you good luck in Tokyo and cheers for you, and you just can't help but push that little bit harder on that workout that you want to quit on. And so many workouts this last 18 months I've been re-spurred on by the support of my community. So it's like always having cheerleaders out there building you up, which has just been so awesome.
Yeah, it's been a real kind of tapestry of, visual cornucopia. That's my other fancy word. It's like you see the outfits that people are wearing, and you see the combination of people that are out and about, and you kind of go, I feel like that person wasn't out walking before the pandemic. And it's just an amazing, heartwarming thing. And like, I was getting chills hearing you talk about how, like, it's a real sense of community there, and that people really, while staying socially distanced, physically apart, still can cheer each other on or say hello, just, kind of, hey, I'm not alone. And I'm trying to inspire my sister, my cousin, my brother, my mother, my son, my daughter, like I'm out moving, and I'm kind of trying to manage through the anxiety of these times as well. And I'm sure you as well as anybody, the mental benefits of movement. So we don't have to spend too much more time on that. I want to let's have some fun. Speaking of mental health, so and we're gonna, the prize of the prize, we're gonna talk about that prize in just a moment. But I was appreciating, again, as we segue into your sponsor, we just have to give a reference to your commercial and to, let's say, at KD, in the amazing support that they have been. I was really appreciating the noodle that you were wearing around your neck in, like, kind of almost like a metal form, like
the
a
golden
lanyard
noodle.
or what have you, draped around your neck, hanging like as if it was like your gold, like a gold medal or any kind of medal that you would win. Tell me about wearing the noodle.
It was the whole thing has been so much fun, so genuine, so just perfect, I think. Craft dinner and people, so many other athletes as well at the Olympics were like, how did this come about? Like, how did you land this? And Craft Dinner reached out to me, basically saying, I'm an athlete who, I do a sport that's pretty niche, and I'm also pretty loud about it. I've shouted from the rooftops for years that I think I have value, and I think my sport has value. I think race walking has value, and then all of a sudden, Craft Dinner came to me and they were like, "Hey, Evan, like, we think you have value, and we think race walking has value. We want to support you." And I was like, thank you. Yes. Like, I've been, and so really what they want to do is just give me a megaphone to do what I was already doing. And I grew up eating Craft Dinner. I went to university as a, living on my own, don't know how to cook. $1.50 for a box of Craft Dinner sorts dinner out for the day, kind of guy as well. So it's been a part of my life since I was a kid, and so it was a genuine partnership. It was a genuine, like, yeah, I eat this and I enjoy it, and the whole thing was just like, let's not take ourselves too seriously. Let's acknowledge that what we are, that race walking looks funny, and who cares? Like, it's hard work, and that doesn't mean we're not going to be supportive of it. And so the commercial was awesome. I had so many people messaging me during the Olympics saying like that was their favorite commercial of the games, and just how cool it was. And it was so much fun to be a part of that team. And they really got on board with everything else that I want to do with my race walking and helping my community. And after my race, they donated 35,059 boxes of Craft Dinner to the Richmond Food Bank. We've helped selling Craft Dinner, selling 150 boxes of Craft Dinner. They're gonna have my face on it for kids sport. I think we've raised like $14,000 for kids sport in British Columbia for that. So just their willingness to listen to when I say, hey, like, how can we help the community, and then coming up with their own ideas as well, and just kind of, it's been such a genuine symbiotic partnership. It's been so cool to land something like that, to find someone like that supports me in that way. It's been a ton of fun.
So to be clear, on this is like a limited edition KD box where you'll be on the cover of, and if I understand, you're going to sign 150 of them. Is that right?
Yeah. I tried to push for more than 150, but 150 was all we could kind of fandangle, and they sold out in a day, which was really cool. And Kids Sport, Craft Dinner matched the donations that people made for it. So just really cool to see that support and people rallying behind the cause, and excited to get their signed box of Craft Dinner, which will be a nice, unique memento for a lot of people. So just really fun stuff, just really genuine fun, not taking ourselves too seriously, but still finding ways to create value. And that's what you want from a sponsorship.
It would be another great partner in addition to KD is the Ministry of Silly Walks.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we should contact them. I would personally be invested myself.
There's a great sign over in a little neighborhood called Burkeville here in Richmond, old airport, old army barracks kind of turned into a little neighborhood. And they have a now entering, the silly walk zone. So with craft dinner, one of the things people could do was take videos of themselves race walking to win some prizes and stuff. And so the Burkeville Run Club came out and were race walking past the sign, doing their own version of their silly walks. And it was really cool to see that. So I think you're right. I think there's already a precedent set to to establish that partnership.
I think that the requirements to having this qualifying for a partnership and being the focal role model or the model spokesperson. You said it well with the loudspeaker, or sending the message anyway. Was I think hair color comes into it a little bit too. No, I mean it's just too ironic.
It's race walking. I mean, I also think from a sponsorship point of view, race walking is perfect because I'm easily recognizable. You can't miss me out on the street. I look very unique. So, I think, if you're looking for something that like is immediately connectable to your brand, even if people just know, oh, that craft dinner sponsored that race walker, they might not know who I am, but if they see me out on the streets, they're gonna be like, oh, that's race walking. That's that. Oh, that must be that guy. Oh, he's sponsored by Craft Dinner. Like it's so easily connectable. So I should add though, with the Ministry of Silly Walks, John Cleese talked about how bad that was for his knees. He completely ruined his knees having to do those live shows with that. And I will say, race walking much better on the knees than the silly walks. So
it's just silly walks to the next level of biomechanics. Better
yes,
biomechanics.
Exactly.
And if you haven't seen Silly Walks, you really should YouTube it with John Cleese. And so I actually just kind of noticing the monogram. Finally, I'm glad you kind of adjusted your top there so that we can see, clearly it's the KD logo, but it's your own monogram. It's your own personalized ED. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been funny. I mean, the joke is not lost on me that ED has different connotations. I don't suspect there's a huge crossover in the craft dinner market.
Slightly different demographic, I guess.
I think so, but I've embraced it. People have tried to make it a point of like making fun of, and I've just said, well, let's do a crossover campaign. Floppy noodle awareness. So it's just, I think, you gotta be able to laugh at yourself and you gotta be able to embrace these things. And I think that's, part of what's made this so great is that we're both entities and they're a corporation. I'm a person, but people that can kind of, make fun of themselves and not take themselves too seriously. And I think that's shown in its full colors throughout this whole partnership.
I'll try to work that into a sentence today, just so you know. Okay. Thank you for that. Just as a tribute. So two things in closing, because I know we've gone a little bit long here, I want to talk about your messaging. But before we do that, let's get to the prize. Can you show the camera? Can you show the world your incredible prize from all your hard work? To talk about it, and there it is.
Yeah. So this side of the medal it features Nike, the Greek goddess of victory. Every Summer Olympics medal has to have this side on it. You can see there's some scuff marks on it. There's some fingerprint marks on it already. This side's a little bit dirtier. It's got this sort of the Tokyo 2020 logo, and then a whole bunch of scuff marks. Bottom has, that's upside down. Bottom has sort of the athletics men's 50-kilometer race walk. So if I ever lose it, they can track me down and figure out who to return it to. But what's so cool about this in my mind is that, some people, the medal.
Here, put it on.
Some people, the medal goes up, goes up on on a shelf and on a bookcase and sort of sits there and it's to be looked at. For me, this medal is something that should be held and touched and worn by whoever wants to wear it and touch it and see it, because I think the impact of this medal is to get it in someone's hands that think, ooh, I can win one of these. I remember back in 2015 at the Pan Am Games in Toronto, my teammate Iñaki Gomez and I went first and second, won gold and silver. And we were out one day and someone had asked to see our medals. And so a crowd kind of gathered around, and this little girl, 13-year-old girl, was looking at the medal, wearing it, looking at, getting a picture with it on, and went to give it back to us and said, I'm going to get mine in 4 years. And it was just like the confidence that this girl had. Like, I wish we could track her down and see what she's doing now, because I know it's going to be amazing things. But, just to see what having a home championships like the Pan Ams in 2015 had, that impact it had, and the impact that we as athletes can have going into schools and doing different events and talking about our journeys, even if we didn't, not someone that had the medal. Even after 2016, when I was fourth, I went and did, I've spoken to over 10,000 school kids in the past few years. And, now to have this medal, to have this tangible thing that I can put in their hands and just really drive home the points that I'm trying to make is going to be so special. But yeah, for me, it's all about just getting this thing as mucky and dirty and and as many fingerprints on it as possible, while still being careful to clean it every time I take it out, so that people are still being COVID safe.
Well, and everybody's got phone cameras, so there's another opportunity, and people experiencing and seeing it on their child, or their child next to the champ, and together with the medal and or together with the school class and whatnot. I mean, that's so amazing that you're seeing what you represent in terms of inspiring people and touching lives, really. And so that's such a beautiful thing that I think, we're here to serve and to represent. In this case, you represent Richmond and Canada so beautifully with such class and poise. And it was so great to watch your interview. And I told your brother that I was going to watch. I was actually going to commit to watch. And so I was watching the last 2 hours live while on an elliptical. And I was like, I feel like I'm getting tired on this elliptical. Like, wait a second. Evan's out there busting his chops, laying it all on the line. I can't stop. So you were my inspiration for that moment and continue to be. So just finally, next steps for you, a race, but maybe a different form of a race we were talking about before, because, you've focused on a lot of Evan Dunfee, but what's happened for you in the last few years is what you've always probably known is that, you want to make a difference for other people.
Yeah, I mean, my community is so important to me, and it's given me so much, and all the opportunities that I've had, to live this amazing dream of a life that I've got to live. And I mentioned earlier, but when I'm doing my school talks, I tell the kids, set really big goals, chase them, chase them with everything you have, wake up every day and ask yourself what you can do to get closer to that goal. But the final point I make is that at a certain point, look back at how far you've come, and then embrace that, enjoy it, celebrate that success, but also, turn around and take some of the lessons you've learned and the skills you've gained from that process and use them to help the next generation do the same thing. And so I'm kind of at that point in my career now where I'm looking for new and unique ways to do that. And the pandemic allowed me to start watching city council meetings and learn a little bit more about how our city works and develop my own vision for what I think Richmond can look like in the future, to give everyone the best opportunities to thrive and succeed. And so now I'm thinking about trying to give back to my community and run for city council or walk for city council and see if I can, use some of the skills I've developed in sport. Training for 50K takes a lot of monotony and a lot of fine minutia. And I think municipal politics can be described very well by monotony and minutia. So, people say, why are you qualified as an athlete to be a city councilor? I say, well, one, I'm used to banging my head against the wall until I bust through. And secondly, I get to walk around my city every single day and interact with it at that really granular level. And I think I have a unique perspective on what the city needs and how it can move forward in the future. And I want to see if people agree.
Yeah, and ultimate, show of perseverance and getting it done. So, I think that we all recognize that, and definitely have my vote, even though I can't vote, being in a different province. But yeah, I just want to say thanks so much, and wish you the very best in health, and continue on that amazing, inward and global journey. You've got big races coming up for next year, and I think you continue to improve your times, as kind of been able to relax on your journey a little bit and learn that skill set a little bit more. And I think it's been reflected in your performances. Was Tokyo a PB for you, or up there?
Conditions didn't really allow for personal best races, but you're spot on. I think that's a really important point that we can leave it on, is that opening up yourself to be less singularly focused on those goals doesn't mean that you can't achieve just as much. I've certainly achieved way more and been way happier since my perspective changed to more of this process oriented and you celebrating success that you made, rather than the objective. Did I achieve X? Yes, success. No, failure. Has not taken away from achieving great success, which I think is important. I think a lot of people think that that's a cop out. They think originally, oh, you don't focus on winning the medals. You're doing that because you're not committed to the goal anymore, or something like that. And that's just the opposite of true. So yeah, I've certainly seen my success increase greatly, probably because my mental health is so much better, because I'm so much happier with the day in and day out process of it. And that's probably the most reflective thing that your performance stands on, is if you're not happy, you're not going to perform well, no matter how hard you're training or trying or striving. So
yeah, no, I think that's such a valuable lesson and message for us, is setting ourselves up with a really supportive backdrop and community, so in a healthy one. So congrats on that, and thank you for sharing that message with all of us. I appreciate your time, Evan, as always, and congrats on Tokyo.
yeah, thank you so much. It's my pleasure.